We welcome you back here to TexasSports.com for another in our series of conversations with Longhorns head coaches. My name is Craig Way. Glad to have you with us and really pleased to be joined by Longhorns Texas men's golf coach John Fields, who joins us now. John, I'll start off like I have with all the others and ask how you and your family are holding up, and especially as we've now gone through a couple of months of this, how everybody is still able to manage all of the things that we're doing in this new normal or this different world we're living in these days.
Well, thank you, Craig. Thanks for having me today. Our team is doing well. My family is doing well. Thank God that we really don't have anybody that is close to us that has had the virus or has been affected by it. We know that is not the case across the nation, that there has been a lot of difficulties, sadly, losses of life and those sort of things. So our heart goes out to those individuals and really to our nation, because this is a unprecedented time. My family, everybody's doing well. My son, my daughter, our new granddaughter, and my face lights up when I talk about Gentry Pearl Fields, because she's only 6 months old, and she's brought a lot of joy into our lives. My wife and I, Pearl, count our blessings every day. As far as the team is concerned, they went home about March 15th. A really difficult moment because our team was doing so well. We were ranked 4th in the nation by 3 different polls, and we were predicting towards another possibility for a national championship. And so that was very difficult. We weren't the only ones, though. Chris Del Conte has done a great job with regards to enthusing all of our teams with energy and desire. And whether it was Coach Flo with the men's and women's track team, they had a chance to win national championships. Our women's softball team was in position to win a national championship, and our women's golf team as well. So from a competitive perspective, we're still stinging. But at the same time, it seems kind of small when you have loss of life like we've had in our country, over 60,000 people, sadly. And so for us to have to stay at home, I'm hoping that lifts now and that we can get back to some sort of normal. But and I'm praying that our athletics get back and our students get back here pretty soon.
Well said. You started to touch on the other thing I was going to ask you when you brought up those other sports where the Longhorns had legitimate national title aspirations and hopes. And I visited with all of those coaches that you just listed there of those sports, and asked them a question I want to ask you as well. How have you, and in specific your guys, been able to reconcile all of that? Is it because of the larger picture and the difficulties that folks are going through? Because it had to be, I would imagine, equal parts being thankful that no one has become ill and had the virus, but at the same time understanding what was out there for you with a legitimate opportunity to compete for a national championship.
Yeah, I think this has been particularly even more painful for some of our team sports, baseball, football, basketball. And that's simply because they're not social distancing sports. Our governor here at the state of Texas, Governor Abbott, allowed for golf because he felt that it was a good exercise, a good walk. And as a result, golf courses were not closed. It's a social distancing sport. And in that regard, we were fortunate because our kids still get to play golf if they live in the state of Texas. And most of them do. So we've had the good fortune to continue to play our sport as long as we social distance, no touch points on the golf course, that sort of thing. And I think golf courses across the state of Texas did a wonderful job in terms of creating the opportunity for their members to stay safe. At the UT Golf Club, we've not had one case of COVID-19. And I think Steve Tremere, our general manager, did an absolutely wonderful job of taking all the precautions. And I think going forward, that's what people need to do. We need to take a leadership role in that regard. whether it's athletics at Texas. And I know that Chris Del Conte and his team, and I'm talking about the marketing team and the people that are selling season tickets right now and getting ready for the upcoming season, are going through a multitude of scenarios to make sure that we have the best opportunity to do the absolute most important thing, and that is to keep our fans safe and to keep our kids safe. And if we can accomplish those two goals, we're going to be able to go forward and maybe take a leadership role in the United States of America.
Your situation is unique that you mentioned about it being a social distancing sport of sorts. The next question that I've asked the other coaches was, how adversely affected have their athletes been in terms of doing the day-to-day things, whether it's training or physical work or just practicing their craft, not having teammates around them. The mere fact that your guys have still been able to get on the golf course by and large, has it altered what the routine, other than of course playing in tournaments and playing in matches, has it altered that much in terms of how they go about their day-to-day preparation and how they try to execute on the golf course?
I'll tell you what has been different is them being at home and being under the thumb of my assistant coaches, which have now become their parents. And what that means is that our President Fenves, did an unbelievable job of putting together the opportunity for Texas to go online. I don't think anybody wants to do that in perpetuity, but for right now, that was the reality. And so I've talked with all of our guys, and I think, to use a baseball term, we're going to hit it out of the park this semester academically. And part of the reason is that our parents were empowered to basically be the gatekeepers for our kids. Yeah, they're playing golf and they're getting out and practicing and that sort of thing. But what they've really done has been an incredible job in the classroom. And to me, it's been remarkable, because every time I talk to them about academics, there really has been a focus there. And they have been captive, because they do these Zoom calls with their classes, and they're front and center, just like I am with you right now. And their professor knows whether they're there or not. Sometimes when there are 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 kids in a class, you might miss somebody, but not right now. And then on top of everything else, I got my cadre of new additional assistant coaches hammering home the point that they need to be successful in what they're doing.
Well, seeing that always helps now. And I would imagine, too, coming down the stretch of the academic semester, graduation, finals, it is kind of ramped it up all the more for your guys, I would imagine, here on these waning days of the spring.
It is. We're going to have one young man, Spencer Sussman, graduate and move on, becoming a professional golfer. But the rest of our guys are turning their competitive values back into academics right now. And we've had great leadership through this pandemic. And it starts with Chris Del Conte. It starts with Arthur Johnson, who's my direct report. They've been keeping in contact with us right along and trying to keep us motivated. We've been in contact with our alumni. We've been in contact with our donors. We've been in contact with all the people that matter in our little world, and maybe even gone beyond that in certain cases. I know that Coach Herman's been out delivering food or doing that sort of thing and being helpful in the city of Austin, he and his wife. So there's a lot of good things that Texas athletics has to be proud of.
John, this may sound like a little bit of an odd question for folks who don't follow it closely, but let's just say, for example, in a normal situation, and your guys are on the golf course in a tournament, you kind of move around. We've talked about this before, and observing how they do in this time of social distancing, and guys are still able to get on the golf course. Have you been able to go out at arm's length, that social distance length, to observe what they've been doing?
Oh, not at all. The Big 12 basically shut down all contact in that regard. We're not going to be able to see our kids until June, probably. And then
So
and
that
they're
wouldn't classify as a virtual learning opportunity there, where they've done some of the virtual learning. That wouldn't classify under that, fall under that category then.
yeah, but they all have their instructors at home. We don't do that sort of thing. What I do, and you'll find this funny, Craig. On a normal basis, when we're at home, we have 20 hours of competition a week or 20 hours a week that we can either compete like in a qualifying format or make them work out or anything golf related. So when we're at home, we usually qualify 2 or 3 times a week, and that would be around 12 hours. And what I normally do, whether it's competition away from home or when we're in qualifying, is I'm walking with them. So I'm out there walking while they're playing golf, and I get to observe and get my exercise. Over the last 4 weeks, actually the last 5 weeks, I did 103,000 steps 5 weeks ago. I did 153,000 the next week, 154 the following week, 163 the next week. And I went down a little bit this week to about 120, just to kind of relax a little bit. My wife says that I'm kicking it up into too high a gear, because that's really about 240 miles in the last 5 weeks of walking. So I'm gotten to know our neighborhood pretty well. And in the meantime, another thing that Chris does is he sends out these different speakers that we get a chance to listen to. It's all in an attempt to keep us positive, keep us motivated, and keep us believing that Longhorn Athletics is going to achieve greatness here very soon.
You mentioned Spencer Sussman graduating and preparing to begin his professional career. Aside from that, how different will your group look and resemble next season once you guys are able to get back on, or even into the fall season?
Well, we have 4 individuals that are returning that are absolutely outstanding. Cole Hammer has been ranked as high as #1 in the world as an amateur. Parker and Pearson Cootie are both in the top 50 in the world. Pearson's something like 15th or so. And Travis Vick is right at top 75 in the world. So we have 4 in our core that dictate that we're going to be a national championship caliber team next year, and most likely the following year. And then we'll transition into the newer, younger guys, and they will have incredible experience. And Texas golf really over the last 10 years has been the #1 Division I program amongst all the programs in America. And I'm particularly proud of that, because it's not easy when you're going to hopefully continue to be competitive. And for us to do that, we have done that. You had guys like Cody Gribble, Jordan Spieth. Right after him, it was Scotty Scheffler and Doug Gim. And right after them, it was Travis Vick and Cole Hammer and Parker and Pearson Cootie. And I'm missing a few in there, like a Bo Hostler. And so, truth be known, our facilities, our university, and our program, the historic value of our program, has been front and center over the last 10 years at a high value.
All right, here's one of the tougher questions of the day. Would it be safe to say that you taught Cole Hammer all those trick shots off the swimming pool, and that has just taken the social media collegiate golf world by storm, that we've had a chance to see? Did you show him those things, or has he been doing that for a long time?
You know, the wonderful thing about Cole, now that the NCAA has changed their rules now, where we can't talk to recruits until their junior year in high school. June 15th is a big day now. But I had recruited, and Cole had gotten in contact with us and committed when he was in 8th grade.
John, let me get your thoughts on the fact that this recent event you've had, or the recent event that was up in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, where you had Scotty Scheffler win the event, Jordan was in the event. The event was well represented on the part of the University of Texas. How about your thoughts on the opportunity that they got to be a part of just in that specific realm?
Well, again, the governor of the state of Texas created the opportunity for golfers, not just college golfers, not just professional golfers, but all golfers, to have an opportunity to enjoy golf while social distancing, no touch points on the golf course, And they were a little bit of a trailblazer at Maridoe. That was a fundraising event for the caddies in the city of Dallas and for it gives us a little pause because all of our teams can't do that, and we understand that. But we've been given a unique opportunity to go out and help people. Now we get to enjoy our sport when we do that, but we're getting to help people too. So there's a little bit of a balance there.
The final thing I wanted to ask you, John, is with regard to the resumption of play on the PGA Tour. We know it's going to start next month. It's going to start at Colonial. Your thoughts on that? You could have obviously some of your formers clearly involved in that as well. What about your thoughts about the PGA Tour kind of leading the way with this first event in seeing major professional sports as we know it get back to work, starting with the Colonial next month?
Right. Well, there's two sports that are going to start back. One at the end of this next week, which is NASCAR. Again, a social distancing sport. But golf will be the first major sport to get back, and I'm praying that it does come to fruition. Colonial Country Club, historic value with regards to Ben Hogan. I think what's going to happen is golf is going to sustain a leadership role in our country as the first professional sport back. They'll do it in a social distancing and mitigating way. No touch points on the golf course, that sort of thing. Very few individuals involved in support, and no spectators. But I will say this: the viewership is going to be dramatic. The field is going to be 144 players, and it'll be the strongest field that professional golf has really ever seen at Colonial. Now, certainly the U.S. Open and those type of tournaments have got that same sort of feel, but Colonial will be almost like a Masters tournament, and I'm really looking forward to it for a lot of reasons. But I'm starved just like everybody else. I love to hear your calls when you're talking about Longhorn football or basketball or baseball. I miss that. And I miss the fact that college golf and college sports and professional sports are out of our lives right now. Makes you understand just how much of a part they are and what they're going to be able to do for the morale of our country.
Well, John, it's always a pleasure to visit with you. I appreciate you taking the time, and continued health and well-being for you and your family, and we'll look forward to the resumption of everything as soon as possible. Thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us today.
Thanks, Craig. I love hearing your voice. It's wonderful, and thanks for what you do for Longhorn Athletics.
Thank you, John. Hook 'em.